small town businesses collaborate with each other to be successful in their endeavors. We are lucky today to have Julie Rutherford with White Top Yoga and Lindsay Holderfield with Paper Moon Studios. So without further ado, Lindsay and Julie.
Thank you, Kathy.
Go ahead, start, Lindsay.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Lindsay Holderfield, and I own Paper Moon Studio in Abingdon. We are an educational art studio, and I also have an indoor play space. So I have a place where families can bring young children in to play inside, which is especially handy in the winter and in the summer when it's really hot. And then I also do art classes for actually infants and toddlers all the way to adults and everything in between. We do after school classes where kids come sort of like they would come to ballet. You come once a week for the whole school year, but then we also do drop-in classes and special events and workshops and things like that for all ages and families. Kind of anything that, if it's art, we do it. And we've been open about a year and a half.
I'm Julie Rutherford, and I own White Top Yoga Studio in Abingdon, Virginia. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary in March. We offer yoga 7 days a week in the historic district and right across the street from Lindsay's business in Abingdon. At this time, I've got about 9 teachers that regularly teach besides me, and we offer a variety of different styles of yoga. Made history in Abingdon, so we're the very first yoga studio in Abingdon. We're doing really well. So we've taught thousands of hours of yoga in the last couple years, and thousands and thousands of students new to the practice of yoga. So I'm doing some really amazing work and really enjoying it, and I'm just really excited to be here, and I hope that a lot of you can learn from what we're here to talk about today. Lindsay's going to kind of talk about why to collaborate, and we've worked together quite a bit. We've met each other at the gym?
Yeah,
at the gym. So we knew each other before Lindsay moved in, and I was really excited to know that she was going to be my new neighbor. I'm back situated, for those of you that don't know where we're located, kind of just off of Main Street in an alley, and really kind of the only business until Lindsay showed up back in that area. So when she moved in, we really did kind of right away start working together.
Yeah. So I guess what I want to talk about first is collaboration with other businesses in general. I think as a small business owner, and we definitely want to hear about what you guys do as we get going. As a small business owner, it's so easy to get completely consumed with your business and what you're working on because you're everything. You know, you're janitor, bookkeeper, you're all the things, and so you're busy, and your mind stays focused on that all the time. And so we really naturally fell into a partnership because we knew each other and because our businesses are literally across Plum Alley from each other. We can see each other out our windows, and because we both do things that complement each other. And so Julie's going to talk about that a little bit more later. But in general, as a business owner, collaboration, it can be really beneficial for a lot of reasons. And one of those is that you're increasing your exposure. Cross-marketing is a great way to reach people who aren't coming into your business. And for me especially, and I mean, Julie and I both, we have service businesses, you know. It's maybe a little different if you have a retail shop and people are just wandering in off the street. People don't wander into my studio off the street. They come there for a reason. You know, people don't necessarily wander into a yoga studio. You're coming there because you're interested ahead of time. So we both had these populations of people we were seeing and communicating with and reaching, but they might not be the same. And so by working together, we are getting to promote to each other's clientele and reach new people who wouldn't necessarily know about us or we wouldn't be on their radar. And so cross-marketing is a fabulous way to reach new people that doesn't really cost any money. You get access to increase your contact list because after we do an event together or we work on a program together, we then both have access to all the people who participated, and so we can add those people to our own distribution list, and then those people know about what we're doing even when we go our separate ways. So that's really good. Also, when you're a small business owner and you're doing all the things, when you collaborate with someone else and you can share the workload, it feels so good, and it can be so easy that you have this great idea of this event you want to put together or some program that you want to do, and to have somebody else to go, oh, great, you go pick up the print materials, and, you know, also somebody to cost share with you. When we do stuff together, if we do print materials, last year for one of our programs, we printed flyers to go home through all of the Washington County schools. So that's thousands of flyers, but we were able to, you know, offset expenses and workload by sharing those things. So we do one flyer with both our information on it, both our logos, both our websites, all that kind of thing. So that's something to think about for sure. And then also just the sort of legwork of putting something together, of taking phone calls and returning phone calls. And for us, because it's a service, there was a registration system that had to be in place. There's collecting money and, you know, all of the little nuts and bolts things that you think about in putting together any sort of program. And even if it is a retail business, you're still going to have things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis of this collaboration, if it's offering cross discounts to other businesses. And so to have somebody to share that burden with you and to sort of divide and conquer makes things easier, you know, than if you're doing it by yourself, like you're doing everything else by yourself all the time. And I probably say that a lot because it's my life right now, especially, you know, the younger your business is, the more you're doing everything yourself all the time. So, and then, of course, and I'm so grateful that Julie reminded me of this one this morning, is that it's fun. You know, we're friends. We are across the street from each other. We're having very similar experiences. We're both moms. We both started our own businesses. We're not 25. And, you know, we have a lot in common in terms of what our day-to-day lives are like in that struggle. And so people want to talk to me about art and children all the time, and I'm good on that front, but this whole business ownership thing is new for me. You know, I spent 15 years of my career in the nonprofit world, and going from that into the small business world is very different, and there are huge learning curves. And you know, we're very fortunate here to have resources like these things, and everything that you do, Sandy, and everything that the Small Business Incubator offers, to have some resources and support. But a lot of days, you know, you can feel really alone in that struggle. And so it's really fun to be able to get together with your friend who's having this similar experience and go, oh, we can do this cool thing that nobody else is doing. And we enjoy it, you know. Yeah. So that's definitely, there are a lot of reasons, even though sometimes I think branching out and collaborating can seem overwhelming because you're thinking, I don't have time to do anything else more than what I'm doing right now. But there are a lot of reasons that should motivate you to make the extra effort, because I think you get a lot of return on that sort of investment.
Yeah. And that kind of leads us into like who to collaborate with. And really, I think the main reason, you just nailed it, have fun and find somebody that, you know, you can connect with well. And, you know, I think that's, there's a bit of chemistry there.
Right.
And we were really lucky to have that, you know, right away. So I think a little bit of it for us was luck. Yeah. But, you know, kind of going back to this idea of isolation, I experienced that quite a bit too. And I think I mentioned in my introduction that I was so glad when Lindsay moved in, because I felt sort of alone back there in my little corner of the world. And you do sort of pull yourself up as a small business owner. I find that I have to do a lot of zooming out and zooming in, and zooming out and zooming in, and you can get really caught up in the zoom in. And so just the physical fact that I can look out my window and see that I have a neighbor that I work with really does cause me, or creates a situation where I zoom out. So it puts some wind back in my sails on those weeks or days when, you know, I'm just teaching classes or going through the regular business week at the studio. If I know I've got something that I'm working on that's special and unique, and where we both can really bring in our best selves, it almost is, it's energizing to me in a way that you know, I'm bringing my best, what I do best, and Lindsay's doing her best, and it creates something that is even more amazing that I couldn't do just on my own. So, this is kind of outside of what my topic is, but I don't want to forget to mention that everyone that we've worked with, when we've collaborated with, like our actual customers, love that we work together.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know that we really even said that on our
No,
notes.
I don't think we did, but that's a really important point.
Love it. They love the idea. The town loves the idea that the two of us are, as small business owners, are collaborating and working together. So it's almost a motivation for people to register for our events, to come experience something unique and special that only the two of us could do together. That, you know, is just so unique and special. It's not cookie cutter. I do think that, you know, I really thrive on that, and whenever we do work together, I find that at those times I really feel so much energy and energized in my business when we're doing that together, because I feel it from the people that we work with.
I think people in general really like to see businesses supporting each other.
Yeah, I really do too.
Being in that Main Street downtown community, if you've been around Abingdon for a while, then you might be, you know, that's not always the case. Sometimes you can get caught up in the competitiveness.
Yeah.
And people don't respond positively to that. Your customers don't like that. They don't like to come in and feel like there's an edginess that you're feeling competitive with the other businesses. People really respond to walking into a friendly atmosphere that's like, yes, you should go to these other places and you should check out these other things that these other great business owners are doing. And the more that you have that attitude, not only is collaboration easier, but you get that feedback from your clientele that they appreciate it and they respond to it. So I think that's important no matter what your business is.
And there does seem to be sort of this ongoing propping up of each other now that we've worked together. I think we did want to kind of talk to you all about the specific projects we've done, because they're kind of like case studies. We won't bore you with all the details of each one, but we just wanted to later maybe talk about everything that we've done together, or a little bit of what we've done together. But you know, it's a known thing now that we work together, and because of that, you know, whenever Paper Moon comes up, when I'm behind the desk at White Top Yoga, there's just this kind of continual support that exists, and it's a really good energy, especially in our little block. You know, I just did want to kind of point that out, because I really think that that's huge. You know, I always speak highly of Lindsay. I send her a lot of, you know, business, or I try to promote her business every chance I get. All of her stuff is in my studio. All of my stuff is in her studio. So
we have resident ambassadors in each other's businesses, which is great, because someone can turn around and ask another mom in one of her yoga classes, like, do you know if she's doing summer art camp this year? Is that going to happen? And Julie knows. So she can answer questions, and I'm not there. And same for me. Like, we keep in touch enough so that we know what's going on with each other's business, and not that we can answer every detailed question, but we stay aware enough so that we're able to promote it for each other, and to at least get that person headed in the direction of the information that they need or want.
But our businesses are, you know, so who to collaborate with, our businesses are really similar and complementary. In fact, we use the same software. We don't really talk about that, but yeah, which is really nice. So even, you know, we opened our businesses at the same time. We have a scheduling software called MindBody, connecting, you know, so that people can come online and sign up for classes with our you know, for our classes. So
we speak the same tech
language. So we speak the same tech language. So, you know, sometimes it's not even just the collaboration, but even in the scheduling, we have an understanding. You know, depending on who decides to take on the scheduling, we kind of take turns with that. Or we found a way that it makes sense for Lindsay to do it, because if we're working with kids, there's just reasons why that she should do that. But I know what she's doing in a way, because we both use the same stuff. So when you're collaborating, sometimes I think, I mean, stuff like that is so invaluable. We kind of take that for granted in a way too. But our businesses do run in a very similar way. So we get each other. You know, we get it. When she is complaining about the software not working in a certain way, she doesn't have to go into all the nitty-gritty details. I'm like, oh yeah, that.
She understands. And I mean, I think if you were starting a new collaboration with someone, these are just things to think about. That make sure that you understand each other. Make sure that you understand what you're asking when you're asking someone to take on a certain portion of that work. It's really helpful to know what you're actually asking them to do. Is that a simple 2-minute thing, or is that something that's going to take them 2 hours? You know, so talk about that stuff so that you have a good understanding of how you're sharing the workload.
Yeah, we're getting into how to start.
Segues.
How to start. But should we pause for a second? Does anyone have any questions as far as anything we've talked about? We really did want to make this more interactive, but look, we got all excited.
I know.
We both do this for a living. We get up and teach
We're
people all day.
teachers, so you guys we'll talk to you all day. I would like to know just what you guys do, because some of this stuff may be irrelevant to you, or maybe it'll be helpful. I don't know. Specifically.
Oh, I am a marketing director at a marketing council.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're retail then, okay. Good. Well, I love the library because the library is also, like such a great clearinghouse for information of what's going on in the community. People go there all the time looking for, knowing what's happening. Good.
Awesome.
Well, good.
I'm always collaborating with working with the state of Virginia and helping businesses, working with chambers, incubators, small business development centers, community allies. So I'm always collaborating.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can do it, not for limited resources.
Yeah, that's a great way to word it. I love the way she just worded that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, because I feel like I reach beyond my limited one-person
Right.
work
There's only so much
capability.
you can
There's only so
do.
much you can do as one person. So yeah, as a brand new small business owner, to just jump right into finding someone that you can collaborate with. Oh, I'm getting so excited now. Let's do.
We're gonna have to go
something
plan.
else.
Well, in the car on the way back,
gonna have a
we'll have a
million
new thing
ideas.
planned. So
Yeah.
y'all hear about it next week because this is how it always happens.
Yeah.
We start talking
It's
and they're like, "Oh wait, we can do
natural.
this other thing that we never thought of."
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to get other businesses to collaborate? Is there a sense of community spirit, or is there a sense of competition?
It's a really great question, and I sort of touched on that
Yeah.
earlier because I was saying, we're in that. Even though we're back on Plum Alley, so if people don't know exactly where we are, we're in that crux of
Half a block off of Main Street.
Plum Alley and Wall Street.
Well, you're
which
technically
is-
on Main Street.
Yeah, I guess officially, even though the back entrance is where people go. But we are part of that sort of downtown block. And there are businesses who are not sort of community minded or collaboration minded. And when I think probably we're not hardened business people either. We haven't been doing this for 30 years and we're not jaded about it, We also are in yoga and art are pretty happy places to be, so
both creative.
I'm not competing with 14 other art studios on my block, and so we have that going for us. But what we did, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the specific, I guess maybe now's a good time. The very first thing that we ever did together is we put together a workshop called Renew Year that was a New Year's half-day sort of retreat. And we did yoga, and we did art, and we did some journaling and sort of goal setting for the year. So it was sort of a
workshop.
Yeah. We picked other business owners nearby who we knew had that community sense and wanted to be supportive of other businesses. So we collaborated with Anthony's Desserts, with Robin at Necessities. Those two are pretty much always game to support anybody and bring people together and want to do
things. Actually.
Yeah,
and we promoted them.
It was great. So that was just a place where we knew that they were already in that mindset and wanted to do more with other people and want to be supportive of other businesses. And so we targeted them. We just went to them first and said, hey, we want to do this thing.
And location-wise, they're right
They're right across the street.
from
So
us also.
yeah, I think proximity is something always to think about in collaborating. It's easy to collaborate with your neighbors because it's really easy to go, yeah, she's right there.
Yeah.
Her studio's right there.
Yeah, I don't know how
that
many
that
times
shop's
I've ever
just down
done
the
that.
block.
Yeah.
I send my parents to Anthony's all the time. Like, you only have an hour, go get a cup of coffee and a treat, or walk down the street and check out Necessities, or so we and they do the same for us.
Yeah.
So
I serve Robin's tea.
I do too, yeah.
You know, at
like
the studio,
Robin has
so.
organic tea that's specially for children at her studio, at her shop, and so
Yeah.
I buy that because all my little kids like to drink tea in their classes, which is really adorable. So, and then I have her cards out with it to say that, you know, if you like this tea, I got it from Necessities, you can go see her. And so we all do that for each other.
Yeah.
And then the people who are not of that mindset, we just work around them.
You know, I really
You know,
honestly think it
there are
doesn't
enough who
take
are.
much to
I
make the
think.
statement that you collaborate. I have
Right.
a bulletin board in my back hallway near the bathroom. It's got all the local business stuff stuck up there, and anyone and everyone is welcome to put it up there. So it's just kind of a visual statement that when people run back to change it into their yoga wear, they see that we support everybody in town. It doesn't take a lot of effort
Right.
to make that statement. And, you know, cards out, things like that.
Yeah.
And just I think your general attitude when people ask you questions, you know, it's the feel. They can tell, you know, they know. So I don't think it really does take all that much effort. And, you know, in the business of yoga, that is really part of the practice of yoga, is lifting up other people.
Right.
So I really wouldn't be practicing what I'm selling if I weren't collaborating. So yeah, but I just think people really take pride in Abingdon, and they love the idea of buy local, and so it does nothing but help my business for me to act and you know, run my business that way with that attitude.
And I do feel like we're fortunate and unique in Abingdon that there are so many small businesses who are actually, you know, one location places some of us, but even the bigger ones, but we're locally owned. And as a community, because we are sort of all living that same reality of being a jack of all trades and doing everything, we naturally support each other because we relate to each other, you know. And you know, I was the chair of the Abingdon Farmers Market Committee for 5 years, and something that came up a lot in those discussions, the Abingdon market, I won't go off on too big of a tangent, but it's different that it's a producer-only market and the board is made up all of vendors. That's unusual for a farmer's market. But that means that every person on that board has their own personal business at stake. They are all tiny, small businesses, you know, all those farmers. And they're all selling the same thing. And so it's really easy to get competitive, and it's really easy to get in that mindset of no more of that, no more of this, that person's going to take away my sales. And we preached for years in that group to try to shift that thinking that really more is more, you know, and the more people you have coming down here for his tomatoes, the more of them are going to wander over and buy your cucumber, you know, or the more they hang out, they're going to decide to get something to eat, and they might look at a pair of earrings, you know. So we really, I mean, I'm a huge believer in that as just a way of operating, that I'm not going to get upset with a mom who comes into my studio, looks at my schedule, and it doesn't work for her, so she wants to know if I know anything about William King's summer art camp. You know, I'm going to tell her where to find that information, because she will come back to me because I helped her, you know, when the schedule does work. If that's the only thing, building relationships with people when you live in a town and a community this size is so crucial. And even if you lose that sale that day, that memory of your approach with people and the kindness and the generosity and your attitude about other businesses and competition is what sticks with people. And that's when people will come back to you, and that's what they will tell their friends about.
And really, I think what Lindsay just said is the underline for the whole discussion today. I mean, we could talk about like nuts and bolts of what we do together and stuff, but I mean, I think that's the underline right there. Also, that being said, you know, I had an art teacher approach me. She was actually one of my yoga students.
All right.
And
sometimes we say no.
Sometimes we say no. I try to stay mindful of my scope, that I'm in the business of yoga. And one of my yoga students is an art teacher and offered to host, and out of the goodness of her heart, she just wanted to do this, host a little, it's called Zen Tangle. I don't know if you've seen it. It's just kind of like art therapy, like relaxing artwork.
Doodling
and
you probably have done it and just didn't know that it had a
Yeah.
name. Yeah.
You're
You
probably
doodle
doing it
on
right
your
now.
notepad in a meeting. Yeah.
You could be doing it in the corner of your page right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But in her mind, you know, and it kind of aligns with yoga and this idea of relaxing your mind and that sort of thing. And And I politely told her, you know, I collaborate with Lindsay, so maybe, you know, we could all work together in that. But I wouldn't, in something like that, I wouldn't go outside of it because I do sort of have this standing setup with Lindsay. So I wouldn't just go set up an art workshop. That wouldn't even make sense because it really, like you said, it may have put a few dollars in my pocket for the workshop,
Right.
but in the big picture of things, I'd be better off to let the expert do the art, and I'll stay with teaching the yoga classes.
Right. The same as I wouldn't have someone else come in and teach yoga
Yeah.
to my students.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to work with Julie. We have a standing sort of allegiance and relationship. We know it works. We know it's easy, and I'm all about easy.
And,
When
you know,
I have 800,000 other things to do. So,
But it has, you know, if I think about this, and this is just kind of coming to my mind right now, it has helped me to define what I do.
yeah,
You know, so when someone approaches me, maybe if I didn't collaborate with Lindsay and someone said, oh, I'd come in and do this, then maybe I'd start to distract myself, you know? So
Yeah.
it really has helped me to really define, you know, my mission and my purpose and what my business is about.
Well, so I'm looking at you because
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, like, in terms of a Harley store, of a retail store. You know, that's already a little broader of a business than just some little niche retailer. But if you want to put together some big promotional event, you don't need to try to become a chef and a clown and you know, all these other things
Yeah.
because
You can go get them.
the
if you
best
need them
thing
for
to
the
do
day.
is collaborate with other
Yeah.
businesses who are experts at those
Mhm.
things and pull everybody together. And with that cross marketing and the cross promotion, it doesn't mean that you have to hire somebody to do all those things. It means that you can find someone who also wants access to your audience that they're not getting and bring them in to do their thing so that it's actually mutually beneficial. That's very different than the thing where we all get hit up all the time for, like, oh, donate your services for exposure.
Yeah.
That's not a real thing. Don't do that. It's bad business. It's not, you know. I saw a great little cartoon recently that somebody sent me that was of somebody trying to go to the grocery store and pay with exposure bucks. I was like, yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So don't donate all your stuff for free if you're not actually getting something out of it. Collaborating doesn't mean just like sticking your stuff everywhere, putting all your flyers in other people's businesses. It's really about a mutually beneficial relationship. So we want to do this thing. We want to put together this big promotional event, and we want you not just to give us food for it. We want you to come set up and be there and be
Yeah.
present, provide some food, but talk about what you do, distribute your information to our clients. And vice versa, and then we'll, you know, and so you're actually trading, sharing the workload like we were talking about before, sharing the cost expense, but really building something and doing something that is mutually beneficial.
For my second birthday for White Top Yoga, we had our 2-year anniversary in March, and I hosted an open house, and I invited everyone I collaborate with to the party, and it was like a little expo. Lindsay was there doing art, and we had musicians that we had worked with before, and all kinds of people.
Health
and
food store.
Health food store was there.
White Birch.
Yeah, the juice store was there. Everybody was there, and they all invited one person. The local artist was there. How many people were there? Like
Oh, it was
different 12.
big,
It was
yeah.
big, and there were some nonprofits there too. So it was all this mixture of just things that we had worked with people we had worked with in the last 2 years, and that we love and care about. And it was such a hit. Like, it was packed in there. And if I would have just said, hey, come celebrate just me, then just my people would have come.
The same people who always come.
The same
right?
people always
Yeah.
come. But Lindsay's people came, and the health food store people were there, and then they were talking amongst each other, and it was a very happy day, and all of the people that came loved it. They thought that it was the coolest thing. So, yeah, I just think those interactions go deeper than that surface level. Like, I could say, hey, do you want me to put your stuff out in my business and lay it out there? That's nice, but it's different than when someone says, hey, I'm thinking about signing my child up for Lindsay's art camp. Oh, yeah, let me tell you about that. And then I go over, and then that's just the thing to get the number.
Right.
That's what that tool is.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So it's so much deeper than just
Yeah, these things
the
can't talk
paper.
for you.
Yeah, and they
that's-
don't have
yeah.
heart. You know, I mean, they're pretty. Yours are prettier than mine because they're art. heart,
you.
you know. But I mean, really, there's heart to experiencing, you know, and interacting with other people. So,
And especially, I think, when you're dealing with service businesses, people want a recommendation. Nobody's going to send me their child just because they read a flyer.
Yeah.
And if they did, I would probably question their parenting. You know, I mean, don't do that. Don't send your children to strangers. And I wouldn't, you know. So you want to talk to somebody who, her kids have been in my classes, her kids have been in my camps, you know, or who can say,
and her
you
kids
should
have
go
been in my yoga studio.
Yeah, and all my students and my own children have been in her yoga studio, and so have I. And so, you know, when you're talking about services, even if it's a haircut, if it's a pedicure, if it's getting your car worked on, you want to talk to somebody. I can't tell you how many Facebook posts do y'all see a week that say, you know, something's wrong with my car. Does anybody have a good recommendation? It's not like they can't Google mechanics in Abingdon, but you want to know somebody who's had an experience that they can speak, first person experience they can speak about and give you that recommendation. And so building those relationships with other business owners, invite them into your business, give them something for free that they can go talk about and experience. That is just so much more valuable, and especially in a small town. I think it's valuable everywhere. I mean, you know more about marketing than all of us probably, but isn't that sort of marketing 101, that word of mouth is your most valuable thing? Well, you have to give people something to talk about. And if it's a service industry thing, then it has to be an experience. It's not going to be a flyer or an advertisement.
I made it a habit for myself whenever I have a new student. How'd you hear about us? That's the first thing I ask them. How'd you hear about us? How'd you hear about us? Oh, my friend told me. Oh, I heard about it. Oh, my sister came last week and she loved it. You know, occasionally an out-of-towner will say, I Googled you, and I'll go, good, I paid for that to show up at the top. You know, and I can say that to them. They laugh. It worked like 4 times, and the rest of them came because somebody else said to come.
Right.
So.
I get people all the time, especially when I do adult classes, who will be walking out the door and they'll look up and see her studio and they'll go, oh, I've heard about that, but I've never really done yoga. Have you taken a class? You know, because they're nervous. And I can say, yes, I have. And they'll say, well, I'm old, you know, or something. You know, I have a bad knee or whatever. And so I'm able to say, her teachers are so good at making you feel comfortable, and it's not an intimidating atmosphere. And, you know, to talk more about the details of what the experience is like.
This accidentally was like the best collaborating thing ever. Lindsay painted our sign for us.
That was actually the very first thing we did, because that was before I even had a business. That's when I had a job.
We have this very old sign. It used to be the sign for the
old Mike's Dry Cleaner
sign. And I asked her, would you please, as my friend, paint my logo on it for me? And so she did. And so when we first opened, you know, it was a lot of that, oh, I love your sign. Oh, Lindsay Holderfield painted that sign. And her art's even in our studio, right? When you walk in, and in my bathroom, too. So
that was also before.
That was also before. So it all kind of started, right, like that, you know. I mean, it was all very natural. It wasn't forced. It was, you know, I keep saying from the heart, but it really was. It was things that, you know, it wasn't forced at all, or it wasn't contrived, or we didn't try too hard. And I think when we try too hard, that's when we mess up, you know. I mean, a lot of times the best work we've done together have been things that just sort of happened, or we've just been, our eyes have been open, like we see that a specific niche is not being filled, and we're able to just fill it in such a unique way when we work with one another. But we have kind of learned some lessons. Should we talk about those?
Yeah, I think
we haven't done this
not
perfectly.
everything has been beautiful and rainbows and bunnies. A lot of it has been, and all that to say too, I think we're very fortunate that this kind of fell together and worked out really naturally. That doesn't mean that you can't collaborate with other businesses that you don't have a pre-existing relationship with. I think the lesson maybe is, as you're exploring options for that, seek out people that you do have, they're easy to talk to, and you feel like you kind of can get on the same page easily and understand each other. If you go in and even the initial conversation is sort of complicated and clunky, probably not where you want to start. You know, don't make things harder on yourself. But yeah, so we've had some things that have gone beautifully, phenomenally well, and then we've had some things that have totally flopped, and we've learned lessons from both of them. I think the best piece of advice that I could give if you're looking to start a new collaboration with any business is start really simple, commit to one thing, one time, low risk, low overhead, get in and get out. So if it doesn't work, you are not roped into some like, oh, for the next 18 months, we have this cross promotion going on.
Yeah.
Don't do that start with, do that later if it works out really well. Start with something really simple that's easy so that if it's a failure, it's fine. If it's a failure, you learn from it, you move on, you don't do it again. But give yourself that flexibility. I think that's really important.
And do you find that working with organizations helps or is no impact? I know we had one of our new knowledge speakers said that, well, it was on the press release, like, if you are collaborating with a nonprofit organization, you have more chance of that program or that project being printed in the newspaper. They don't print business press releases.
Well, I
I
can
don't know.
speak
We've
to
been
that.
in the paper a lot.
We've been in the paper a lot. I've been on the cover of the paper twice.
I have
three
too,
times.
yeah.
3 times I've been in Bristol on the cover of Bristol's paper.
Yeah.
When I first opened, it was a little shocking, honestly. I got a lot of attention in the beginning, and now all of a sudden it's like I go to Kroger and you're like, I was sitting at the dentist. Aren't you that yoga lady? So I did get a lot. I was very lucky. I got a ton of press.
But it wasn't from a press release, it was just because they
Right.
wanted to do a
Right.
story.
I've
But
gotten
what
nothing
I
from press
can
releases,
say-
honestly.
Press releases, I haven't really needed to do that. I haven't felt like it's been worth my time, honestly. Back to the whole thing, word of mouth, people did see me on the paper and congratulate me and share it on social media, and that was really nice. But I don't think that I got even I was on the front page twice, I don't think anyone saw me on the front page and went, I'm gonna go try yoga. They already knew me, and then they were so proud of me, that they wanted to come support the studio, but they knew the face that was there already. However, I do this thing called karma classes, and what it is just a donation yoga class. I tried in the beginning of, when you start a new business, you think you can rule the world, at least I did, all by myself, so I got very ambitious, and I had a ton of adrenaline and energy in the beginning, and I said, every month, just be careful of what you do like that, every month I'm going to have a karma class. It hasn't turned out like that after a while, but in the beginning I was doing it almost every month, and I still do them from time to time when it comes up. So what I do is I'll offer a yoga class for donation for a special cause that's usually near and dear to a student's heart. So I have a student that's really involved in March of Dimes, so we've done several free not free, donation yoga classes. There's still an exchange of energy, but the donation, the full 100% of the donation goes to March of Dimes. I had an article written in the newspaper about my karma classes because that was likable, right? And so it's the same sort of thing with the classes. When I do the donation classes, it gets everybody from March of Dimes comes in that night, and so maybe they never come back, but they have a nice experience at White Top Yoga, and they do a yoga class for a donation one time, and they've met me, and oh yeah, it comes up in dinner conversation that evening. I went to White Top Yoga tonight. They were doing a donation class for March of Dimes, and I work for March of Dimes or whatever. So I've done lots of different ones for different nonprofits, and usually it's somebody that's already the nonprofit. It's usually one of the students that practices with us. They are involved with that particular nonprofit, and it's an open thing. Like, I'll tell students all the time, if you would like me to do it, I will do it. I'll do it one time this month, no more than that. And I won't go to you. You have to come to me. You have to come to the studio, and it has to be at this certain time that I'm available. So I put parameters around it so that they respect me, and I don't get pushed around, because I don't know if Lindsay's been through this as much, but as a yoga teacher, before I actually owned a studio, everybody wanted me to come and do all their donation stuff. And so I just found a kind of a system for myself that honored my needs and my schedule, but still gave back to the community and to the people that I work with. So that collaborating with people like that, it's been awesome. It feels so good too. I mean, it really does. And even teaching for a class like that versus teaching a paid class, it feels different to me. I always feel really good when I do it. Yeah, so I really do enjoy doing those. Mm-hmm.
I have, just sort of going back to your original question, I have done some collaborations with nonprofits, and I mean, I have a lot of connections to nonprofits because that's where I spent my career for the last 15 years, so, and mostly here. So I know a lot of people in nonprofits, and I have not gotten newspaper stories out of those collaborations, but something that I have gotten is a lot of word of mouth, sort of advertising, and also with March of Dimes. My students for the last 2 years have made not all of the decorations, but a lot of the decorations for their big fundraiser ball that they do in October every year. And so last year my students painted, their theme was Whoville, and my students painted these giant cardboard Who houses that we donated to the March of Dimes to use as decoration in their events, and then they put little signs up that said, decorations contributed by the students of Paper Moon Studio. There are a lot of people who go to that ball every year who have no connection nor no reason to be connected to my studio. And so, but they may have a grandchild who visits in the summer who they then send to summer art camp or something like that. Or just like you said, then you're on their radar, they're aware of you, and when it comes up, they can go, oh yeah, aren't those kids who painted the Who houses at that thing I went to in October? So I've gotten a lot of that where I run into people and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. You're that art lady who, your kids did this thing and I saw that. So I've gotten a lot of, I guess, social capital out of it, which I think is totally worth it to me. I haven't gotten a lot of hard press for it, but, I think when I started my business, it was really important to me, and I've said this from the beginning, and it's in my mission statement, that I brought my nonprofit heart into my business, and it was really important to me. It is really important to me to operate a business with a conscience and a transparent agenda. But going into the business world for me was a way to gain some freedom and flexibility that I never had in the nonprofit world, because I am not beholden to grants, and I am not beholden to administration and board of directors and people who don't get what I do every day. And so for me, being an actual business has been less about the sort of making money part, even though that's lovely, it's great and it is the goal, but it's gaining ownership and flexibility. And one of the reasons that it's really nice to collaborate with other business owners is we can do whatever we want. It's my business. I can do what I want to do. And if I want to participate in that, I can, but I don't have to, and I don't have this pressure from a board of directors. So sometimes when you collaborate with nonprofits, they have certain things they just have to do, whether they want to or not, or whether or not it's clumsy and more complicated. So I think if you're going to collaborate with a nonprofit, you just have to be aware of that and be compassionate about that, they may have more hoops to jump through than you do as a business owner. That doesn't mean that it can't work, but you just have to sort of understand what everybody's agenda is and what the requirements are to get stuff done.
My background is I got started with YMCA, same thing. So there was just an awful lot of generosity in the work being done there. So yeah, kind of come from the same place.
So if you were advising, I don't know, let's just in general, I know more about avenues than I do about communities. So if you were advising, let's see, Avenue Main Street on how to help the process, what would you ask for?
From the
Avenue
other
Main
businesses?
From an organization that's there to
Right.
support your types of businesses.
Right.
You're in the location where
Like, what can they do
what could
to help us and
an
others?
organization like that do? Is that, should they take your model and then try to get other businesses to do that, or
I don't know,
what is it that they can do to help you all build on what you started?
That's an awesome question.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is think outside the box and be open-minded. You know, that's the fun thing about being a small business owner, you know, like Lindsay said, you can do whatever you want to do. So I think when you kind of talk about this, I think from my experience with Lindsay, the reason it works is because there wasn't like step 1, call Lindsay, step 2. You know, I mean, I don't know that there's really, you know, an instruction manual for it. I think you have to think outside the box and be very creative thinker.
You're not necessarily like-minded, you just.
Well, I think we are a little.
Respectful of each other's
There's definitely that.
qualities.
I think maybe both.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of ways we are like-minded. I think we approach our teaching in a very similar way.
Well, and we just said we both came, you know, we both came from nonprofits. I
Right.
think there are a lot of similar experiences, and we're in the,
But we definitely also we have a lot of respect for what the other one is balancing and trying to do. And we've never had an issue of stepping on
talked
each
about
other's
this.
toes. If
Yeah, we
anything,
talked about
we're
this.
more likely to be the people that no, you go ahead, no, you go ahead. You know, I mean, because we love each other, you know, and we are friends, and we do have a lot of respect and compassion for each other. So, we've never had to jump over sort of those
and, you know, going
hurdles.
back to that zoom out, zoom in thing, I think both of us are really, maybe more than we give ourselves credit for, at least the more I give myself credit for, good at seeing like the big picture of everything and not getting so hung up even on like, you know, we've got this list of things we're doing, that it's more important to me that we keep doing stuff together
Right.
than Lindsay didn't get to, you know, go pick up the whatever at a certain time, and this didn't happen just how, you know, she said she was going to do it, or, you know, we don't get nitpicky that way. And
So you're flexible.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we have that written down, flexibility. I mean, we're just so flexible with one another, and we trust each other.
Right.
You
And
know?
I think that's part of the compassion and respect for each other too,
Yeah.
is that you have to be like, okay, you didn't do that part. We divided up the tasks, right?
Right.
And you didn't do your task the way that I would have done it, or in the time that I would have done it. But instead of getting hung up on that and being upset with you about it, at the end of the day, we're like, it all got done. Everybody who came was really happy when they walked out the door. And that's what we care about.
Yeah.
And so
We
that
really do
gives
stay
yourself
focused on the
it's
big.
permission to kind of let go of
A lot of the details.
a lot of the little nitpicky things,
Yeah.
you know. And that's also part of it. If you're gonna go into a collaboration with someone, you have to be capable of letting go of the parts that you're letting them do, and letting them do it their way, and you will release yourself of a lot of stress if you can do that. And I say that as a hardcore type A control freak, okay? So that is it's a really good exercise for me to be like, because I implicitly trust Julie. So I know that even if she does something a completely different way than I would have handled it, it doesn't matter, because she's going to do it. It's going to be done well. It's going to get done. And it's okay for me to not be in charge of everything all the time, you know?
But we do like we had they're called mala beads, so it's like a jewelry, a special piece of jewelry for yoga.
It's like rosary for
Yeah.
yoga, kind of.
So we did a workshop, and Lindsay did the jewelry part, and I hosted it at the yoga studio. The yogis came, and things went well, and things didn't go well, and it was kind of like this pilot thing, and there was parts of it that were more complex than we kind of anticipated. We had this big phone call afterwards, and we just chewed through all of it, and oh my gosh, it was the best phone call. I mean, we figured next time we do it, it's going to be amazing. And it was amazing the first time. It's going to be more amazing, because we had like this post. What is the word?
It's like a debriefing.
Debriefing. We debrief
Venting session,
with
maybe
each other.
some
Yeah.
of it.
So,
Yeah. That's
so we
important
have these
too.
things. Yeah, we have these things that we do. So if something didn't go the right way, you know, and I own, like, I think it's important, you know, like, if I messed up, I own it. If she messed up, she'll own it. You know what I mean? And then we're like, oh, that's fine, you know? So, I mean, there's none of this, like, she didn't do that, or I didn't, you know, or any feeling, I don't worry that she's going to, like, hold it against me for the next one, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, we debrief, and I think that's very,
I
very...
think that's always
You could put
important.
that in the instruction manual.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I mean, that's
with,
like you got to do that.
with any sort of collaboration, and
Meet
to do it
afterward.
as quickly
As
after
possible.
whatever the collaboration
Like,
is, whatever
that
the thing
night,
is.
or Yeah.
Talk
Like,
about
don't let
it.
time go by.
As soon as you can while everything's fresh on your mind, even the
Yeah.
emotions of it.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that we said going in, like, we don't want to do this if it's stressful. We
Right.
have enough stress in our lives trying to run our businesses and
Right.
parent and do all the things that we do. So we're not doing this to add stress. We're doing this to elevate our businesses and to enjoy it as we do it. And so we sort through the nuts and bolts of like, oh yeah, we should have put that table over there instead of over here, and
Right.
that would have flowed better. But then we also talk about there's this one part that really frustrated me today, and I didn't like the way that it made me feel. And so what can we do to change that if we do this
Next
again? Even if we don't do it again,
Just to talk about
just
it.
to process that, so that our approach gets better and better every time, so that we're
There's a lot
and that
of
we're
that.
thinking ahead every time, so
And
that
I
you're
appreciate
heading
that
off
because
pitfalls.
I learn about how to run my business individually from her when
Yeah,
we do
me
that
too,
sort of
for
thing.
sure.
You know, because I do this all by my lonesome all week long. And so if I can learn how to process stuff, and I saw like, oh my gosh, she did such a good job at like handling that, and I should handle it like that. You know, I should handle this part of my business like that. Or when something comes up that's hard, wow, I mean, she models things that I can take and use in my business.
Vice versa.
Yeah, and so I'm like, oh, you know, so I learn things, I take it back to my individual work too, from working with her. So I see her strengths and the way she runs her business, her little ideas and things. And it's not that we're stealing from each other at all.
No.
It's more just, you know, I mean, it's helpful. It's helpful.
And that is how you learn, right? We get to a certain point in our lives where learning opportunities are less formal. And so you have to really pay attention to what's going on around you to learn things. Sure, you can come to something like this, and this is a more formalized thing. This is great and such a great resource. But just by paying attention to little nuances of, you know, the way she greets the room, or the way she sets it up, or the way that she handles certain prickly situations, I can learn new strategies for dealing with difficult people. You're going to deal with difficult customers always, right? In anything
We also
that
can
you
read
do.
each other's mind.
There's that. It's really helpful, and I can't teach that. That's just luck, but it's really helpful. Yeah,
But
we do a lot of
well-
simultaneous texting, which is a little weird.
It is
but-
weird. But maybe that just happens when you work with somebody often, and that's one of the fun parts, you know.
So I think about Abingdon Main Street, who I am the first to admit I have not been a great member
I haven't
or
either.
supporter of that organization, and not because I don't want to be,
Right.
but because, like I said at the beginning, it's so easy to get focused and hung up on the zoom in part, and you know you're so focused on your trees that you don't have time to even think about the forest, and so that's really easy. And I feel like some person, this is just my opinion, I feel like what would be really beneficial to everyone involved, all the business owners from that organization, would just be spending some time together and doing a little team building. Because there are some old attitudes and some old ways of thinking from individuals, not everybody, you know, it's not everybody. People who get set in their ways, it's easy to do when you're you know, treading water all the time. It's really easy to forget that, hey, we could all get out and take a break and listen to each other and learn from each other a little bit more, and let me find out about what you're doing in your business, and let me hear about, you know, some of the things that you're struggling with, and have 5 other people in the room go, oh my gosh, me too, that drives me crazy, how do you handle it? And maybe one person has a solution. And that's something that I don't think we do enough of, and I don't feel like just sort of the regular meetings are geared for that necessarily, or maybe I don't go to all the meetings, so I'm really sort of speaking out of turn here, but in my perfect world, what I would like to do is I would like to get to know these other business owners. I would like to hear about what they're doing, what they're struggling with, what their challenges are, what their successes are. I'd like for us to be able to share our experiences with them, and to really be more of a network who supports each other, because I feel like we just need to have each other's backs.
Yeah.
You know, we want this town to stay this interesting little place with lots of privately owned small businesses peppering Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
There's some great new things going on that block across the street from us, with Geraldine's Shed moving and expanding, the new candy shop. Now there's going to be a new toy store. That makes me so happy. It makes me excited to get to know these people and to be able to cross promote and support other small businesses, because I don't even care if somebody opens up another children's art studio. To me, it's about keeping Abingdon, I guess keeping the character that this place has. I've lived a lot of places all over the world, and this is the first place I've ever lived where I've been able to be really proud that we have this sort of very authentic and very unique community. I don't even know what to call it. Yeah, there's just so many things that are homegrown here. And that's not, you don't see that everywhere, and it's easy to lose, you know. And so I would like to see, first of all, myself get more involved with Abingdon Main Street. So, I mean, I will definitely own it. I've not been a good supporter, but to get more involved, and just, I think if you build relationships with each other and support each other, that all the other nuts and bolts kind of stuff with events and cross promotions and things that we can do for each other and all that sort of stuff will come naturally.
And so you're leading by example, and that's, you know,
Right.
that's the best.
Well, and yeah, like Necessities, Robin opened about the same, within the same month, I think within like 2 or 3 weeks of my, when we opened the studio. And so because we're both the new kids on the block at the same time, we're like checking in on each other in the beginning, not so much anymore, but still if I like stop into her shop, how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday. We did it, a year, whatever. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be big, huge, time-consuming things either. Once again, I just think it goes back to, if you lead by example and you have an attitude like that, it's contagious.
Yeah.
It was a little quiet as the new kid on the block outside of that, though. I mean, I didn't really hear from any of the other businesses like, "Hey, welcome,"
Yeah,
That
me neither.
I didn't experience
And
that.
I even got left out of a couple things
Yeah.
that went on, but like the old timers planning stuff, and then I would hear about it and be like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well,
So one of the things I guess you're saying is, no matter who it is, somebody that's in charge of pulling those groups together and saying, welcome, here's what we're doing, here's what we'd like for you to get involved with, or what can we do to help you? How can we,
yeah. And also, here's what we've done, because I know that with a lot of turnover and new business owners, I've been to a couple of those meetings where somebody new comes in, and this is a slippery slope, but somebody new comes in with no background information on what Abingdon Main Street has already done, and we spend the whole meeting listening to them tell us things that we should do that we already did 3 years ago, And so I think it's really important to help bring people into the group and bring them up to speed to say, not to say that, oh, that didn't work 3 years ago, so it'll never work, but just to help people understand sort of where everybody is, what they're walking into, what's been tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what people are open to trying again, what people definitely never want to do again, that kind of thing. Because when you come in fresh, you don't know. You don't know where everybody stands. You don't know so I think that would be helpful. And I'm not sure if that's something like catalog of meeting minutes or some sort of, I know that Jennifer just did a Main Street 101 presentation to sort of give everybody a download on what the organization is about. But so I think to have something like that available to any new business as they come in, not something that she has to keep doing over and over again, but just
Or that
maybe
you
to
have
make
to
that
take time
available.
out of your day to go to.
Yeah,
Because
so that
honestly,
if you open up a new business, you can be like,
Yeah.
having a Main Street, what's that about? What does it do? What should I ask them for?
so maybe an informational package.
Yeah.
Here's
Like
if
a
you need-
orientation kind of
If you
thing.
need this, here's your.
Yes.
Because honestly, when I opened, I hit the ground running, and my time was so valuable. I have 2 children, and we opened rather quickly, and so, I mean, it was like every minute of my day was so valuable. I didn't have time to sit through meetings. I had
Right.
stuff I had to do,
Yeah.
had to do.
Yeah.
Like teach classes,
And-
So
yeah.
when you're new, I mean, every minute of your day either is like, and if not, I just need to go to sleep.
So just to follow up on that a little bit, how do you, do you all look around, or, you said there's some other people down on Main Street that you kind of interact with. Do you all say, God, wouldn't it be great we're getting a candy store, we're getting a kids' toy store, we're getting Geraldine's shed. Now, wouldn't it be great if we had such and such and you all kind of, you know, y'all are kind of have your eyes open for things like that, or is,
In terms of other businesses,
yeah, when you say, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we had a, I don't know, shoe store?
yeah, I mean, I wish I had
I mean,
thought
we
of the
dream like that,
toy store
but-
idea, because when I
Yeah.
saw that sign, I was like, yes, that's what we needed. That's awesome. That's great.
I mean,
you
I
know?
really want like a little coffee shop so that everybody can, after yoga, go hang out.
Well, so that's and that's what's
You
happening
know?
downstairs in my building, is that there will be yeah, it's been like anything, you know, when you decide to gut an old building and reopen it, it always takes 100 times longer than you think it's going to. So that does not mean that it's you know that, right, man? Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not happening. It is. There's going to be a bakery downstairs, and part of her goal, I think she will be another beautiful addition to this community of small business owners, because one of the first things she said to me after she told me it was going to be a bakery is, I just want it to be a place where people can hang out. It's going to be open later. You know, it'll be very casual. So a place that people can go and get a cup of coffee, or, you know, just hang out on the weekends. And that's something that I feel like downtown we haven't had for a long time. You know, I'm a huge Zazzy's fan, and I kind of exclusively drink their coffee, but you know, they're not open late, and I get why they're not, you know. And I worked with them on other collaborations when we were trying to do First Thursdays openings there, and it's just hard. It doesn't draw the nighttime crowd. So, but when the Virginia Creeper Bakery was open years ago, I don't know that they did a ton of business in baked goods, but they did have a lot of people hang out there in the evenings on Friday nights, because it was the only thing open. And this was like pre-Bonefire. I mean, you know, there's this whole like Abingdon history of which businesses used to be where. And but yeah, so I think that that's something that will be a great addition. And I hear a lot of people say that, like, well, you know, they roll up the sidewalks around here at 9 o'clock or sometimes even earlier. And so I think having a place that's just casual, where you can just stop in and go sit and linger if you want to, and you don't have to feel like you need to eat dinner or whatever, will be a really nice addition.
Because we close up shop 8:30 or so. So
Yeah.
and it's done.
Yeah,
by
there's
the time
nothing. I mean,
yoga
unless you want
classes
to go
are
to
over.
Bonefire, but if you just left
Yeah.
yoga, you probably don't want to go to a bar with loud music. So sometimes you do, you know, but not all. So it's just nice to have options. And I mean, I send people to Bonefire all the time too. So
What about projects like, if we were doing collaborations with folks, what about projects like, I don't know, Art and Park or chair yoga, and, you know, with that, are those things that, you know, help expand your collaboration efforts? Would they be things that would help you?
I think so. Actually, it's funny you said that. I just have, and it's on my summer art camp cards that just went home from the schools. I'm going to try something over the summer that will be Art in the Park. We're going to do family craft days in the little park next door to my building, where for 2 hours on Saturdays once a month we have a family craft, so that you can come and bring everybody, and the whole family will work together to make one piece of art that will be cool enough that you'll actually want to hang on your wall. And but you can all enjoy the process together, and it's all going to be art and nature themed, so that, because we want to do most of it outside. And that is something that I would definitely like to see if it works, if people come. I like the idea that people could walk over from the farmer's market. You know, we're really close and they'll be open. That's something that I could definitely see growing over time, to be like, oh, it's, you know, second Saturday is Art in the Park, and White Top will be there doing a little family yoga session for 30 minutes, and Lindsay's going to have a craft, and maybe the people from the toy store and the candy shed will be there with a little booth set up or something, and there can be multiple things going on. Maybe there's music. And I love that our collaborations and my vision of something like what I just described would be organic.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much, and it's the way that we approach First Thursdays. We're not going to mandate this thing and make this event and then create a committee and spend hours planning it and do all these things. We're going to say, hey, I'm going to be over here doing Art in the Park on this day, and I would love it if you came and did your thing next to me.
Because
You
my
handle
time's
that.
valuable, and when
You
when we
handle
start
your
getting
thing,
into,
you
yeah,
know?
and I think that's when it works the best, because my time's too
I
good.
was
No.
No, because I don't. That's
No.
draining to me. And
Exactly.
My time is way too valuable to sit in a lot of committees.
And it's
I just don't have time to do
unnecessary,
it. It's
honestly.
unnecessary. I don't have time for it.
If you get
I won't-
people
I
who
won't
are
sign
good at
up.
what they do,
Yeah.
that whole other administrative
Doesn't
layer
have to
becomes
happen.
unnecessary. And we
Mhm.
proved that with First Thursdays, I think, where everybody was like, we're
I
all
know it's
doing
hard.
these things separately.
This is what we had time to do.
Yeah, right?
You know, for this. That's not on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we just don't. You can't.
And you don't
You
have
know,
to.
and you don't have
That's
to.
the thing, is that you can create something
Yeah.
really valuable,
Yeah.
really high quality. And that's always my thing, is like, for my business, it's quality over quantity. I would rather do one really great event all summer long than stretch
Spread out.
myself so
Yeah.
thin and be so caught up with administrative details that I'm trying to do so many things, but they're all just kind of like, meh, you know.
And in my business, you know, if I arrive at the set event date and I'm worn out and I'm not into it, then I'm not going to come across that nicely, you know?
Right.
Like, my classes aren't going to be that good. And then
And then
everybody
you're not
comes to
gonna
the
wanna
class
do
and then
more of
nobody- I'm
that.
just like, what? You know?
If it's totally draining to do a
Yeah.
collaborative event, then you're not going to want to do it
For
again.
my business, that's very obvious, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
I got to be into it because my teaching is, that's my product.
Well, yeah, and that's me too.
You know,
Yeah, when you're a service, when you
know,
have a
I'm not selling
service-oriented
coconut
business,
water,
yeah,
you know, and you drink it or whatever. I mean, it's me.
Yeah.
So if I'm involved in a project that's draining to me, and then I know this inherently, that if I you know, decide to do something like that and I'm not all in, then when I get there, it's not going to come off that
Yeah.
great, and I just won't sign up because I know already
Yeah.
myself well enough to know that that's just, it's better no.
Yeah. Well, and it's
that one's
definitely-
a no for Julie. You know, I just know
Yeah.
myself enough now after teaching so much that, you know, I'll only sign up now or I'll only plan things like our list, you know, that I know when I get there I'm gonna be like, yay, I'm doing this,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm gonna shine.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I show up to an event drained and frustrated from all the planning of the event,
Yeah.
your kids are going to get on my nerves. And I'm not going to be a good teacher to them that
True.
day, you know, because I'm going to be already tapped out.
Yeah.
We can't do what we do when we're personally tapped out because it has to be our own personal energy and our faces and our bodies standing there doing the thing. You know, that's not as applicable to retail. Although if you're the person who's sitting in your shop all the time, then even if it's a retail business,
Yeah.
it's still really important. And it's
Mhm.
definitely important when you're talking about hiring employees. I am super picky about the people I bring into my business because I don't care if you don't know how to use a pair of scissors as much as I care about the way that you relate to people when they walk in the door.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you don't hop up and say hello and start talking to people and you see a shy little kid and get down on their level and start making them feel comfortable, if you can't do that, you can't work for me. Because, and that's just keeps coming back to the quality over quantity thing. Like, that's the important thing. I need everybody who walks out of my studio to feel like they just had the best possible experience that they could have had.
Well, I agree with you. And so I guess in conclusion, what you're saying is that your marketing efforts, your advertising efforts, your promotional efforts, and your business growth efforts are all kind of one theory that has become your creative collaborations.
And yeah, and then the details change, but
I mean,
our
there
approach
are some
doesn't
things
really.
like we said, how do you get started? You know, collaborating with somebody. We were kind of listing some ways, and low risk, simple, all of that. I mean, we do things like work out the money ahead of time.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't make stupid decisions like that where it's like afterwards we're like, well, how much do you want? How much? You know, we don't.
Especially
I mean,
if
we
it's
think
your
that-
friend.
Yeah.
And then it's
especially if
like
your friend.
uncomfortable and awkward.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
mean, we're really clear with each other on stuff like that. I mean, those are types of things that are, you know, are easy to do if you're just if you just know to do it. So like working out the money and the details, and even like the workload, like you know, oh, you're gonna make the copies for this, and I'm gonna do that, and then it's pretty clear. You know,
Yeah.
those sorts of things.
I'll design the flyer, you take care of getting it printed.
Yep.
You know, we do
Is
that
fair?
up front every
and we'll
time.
even say, is that fair? Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
No. Well,
And
what
then be
about if we
willing
did
to
this? And
say
be willing to say
no.
no. And,
Be
you
willing
know,
to say no if that doesn't feel, or no, I know I don't have time for that, or that doesn't feel fair, or I'm not comfortable with that responsibility. You have to be willing to own up to your part of it and say what you're willing to bring to the table, and especially say what you're not willing to bring to the table, so that you don't get in a situation that becomes uncomfortable, or you build resentment, or there's some awkward thing that you're not saying, because if you don't say it, then next time it's going to be hanging there waiting to be said still, you know? Luckily, we don't communicate like that as humans anyways, so as you can probably tell, we're not the holding back kind of people, so we don't really have that problem, but I think that's important for everybody, especially for people who aren't comfortable communicating that way, because you have to protect yourself from getting into a situation that you just don't want to be in. That's really important. And, you know, a couple of just really strategical things that we've done, lest it all seem like, oh, we just love each other and everything's great.
Right.
We do think strategy. So
Yeah, we do.
we did something 2 winters ago. We created a program called the Snow Days Art and Yoga Program. So that anytime Washington County schools were out for inclement weather, you knew that we were going to be open from 1 to 3 for a 2-hour drop-off program for children. And they would drop off at my studio. We would do an hour and 15 minutes of art. Yeah, remember the winter where the kids didn't go to school from like Thanksgiving to New Year's? Yes. So if the schools were out, you didn't have to, you didn't have to sign up ahead of time. You just knew that was our policy, and we did it that way on purpose so that you wouldn't have to figure it out every time school was closed. They dropped off at my studio. We did an hour and 15 minutes of art, and then we would walk them over to the yoga studio, and they would do 45 minutes of kids yoga with Julie. So we strategically made it so that the parents came into my studio to drop them off and went into her studio to pick them up. So they got exposure to both places, regardless of how they heard about us. Some of them were my art students, some of them were her yoga students, and bringing their kids, right? So that was a very specific plan targeting, we are moms. We know that after about 3 or 4 days of snow, we're like, okay, you need to go do something, And that was also a winter when there wasn't a lot of snow, but there were a lot of snow days. So your kids don't have anything to go outside and play in. It's just really cold. So the idea of getting them somewhere to move around, the roads were fine. So it was just really cold. And so they don't want to go out and play, but we can get them getting creative, hanging out with different people that they wouldn't necessarily always hang out with, and then move their bodies around a little bit and come back to you a little more relaxed, So it was kind of genius, I think. It was hugely popular.
I think we did a good job. I mean, really, that
was born out of motherhood.
That
was born out of
the box. Because we just saw a need and filled it that was not being filled.
Absolutely.
All we heard were the complaints from all the moms.
Yep. So we're like, well, we'll give this a shot. And then all of a sudden I was like, my classroom is physically not big enough. I had one day where my table was going out the door and I had kids in the hallway because I had so many kids show up for this thing. And then they wanted to keep coming back. I met moms that I had never met before because they take yoga with her.
Yeah.
That segued into...
I met moms that had kids in her art that
had never been to yoga.
Had never been in the studio because it was still new, so that worked well for me.
So that segued for me into getting some new students in my after-school classes and art camp. That segued for her into a family yoga class.
Yeah.
And other moms coming into yoga classes. We both got the distribution list. We made everybody register. Everybody gave an email address when they signed up. That was a requirement. And then we both had those people. And so that worked beautifully, so much that in the summer people were like, are y'all going to do that again?
Yeah.
So we added 4 dates in the summer where we just did art and yoga. We had to change the name of it because then there was no snow, and we hadn't thought that far ahead. So we were like,
kids loved it. It was so unique to them. They had never done anything like that.
It was great. So then we ended up filling 4 dates in the summer, doing the same program, but in the summer just because those kids wanted it again. And then this is a good example of something that we did that totally didn't work. That was all successful. It was great. We were like, oh, you know what we'll do is in the summer we'll send out like a coupon via email to all the people who came to Snow Days and be like, if you register for 5 class passes, because we use that same registration system.
We'll give you a discount.
We'll give you a discount on 5 class passes at either studio if you came to Snow Days.
For
not
a
one.
Successful
program.
Nothing.
No. They came back. They did other things.
But
that's something we tried. Didn't work. We were like, okay, well, no harm, no foul. We don't do that again.
You know, I found that to be true in my past life is people aren't looking for a discount. They're looking for something that you do that they enjoy.
Just for them, yeah. So, yep, I can't believe we've talked this long. Hope y'all aren't asleep, so I guess we'll take that as a good sign. One other thing I just wanted to mention that we did that totally didn't work, just to say that, you try stuff, and if it doesn't work, it's a good exercise to, don't hold on to something that doesn't work. There's no reason to do that.
You can get it in your head. I think that, you're really wanting it to work.
Right.
And
I did that. So Julie has a candlelight slow flow yoga class that's just it's late evening, it's very relaxing, it is candle lit, quiet, soft, easy yoga. Easy. Is that the right description? No,
Yeah.
probably not. I don't know. It's
easy breathing.
But it is meant to be a relaxing, it's a great way to end your day kind of practice. And I have a huge interest in art therapy. And so I was teaching an art for stress relief class. And so this is an hour-long drop-in class for adults where you come in and do something process-based. It's not about a finished project. It's about doing something that is also meditative and relaxing. So I think, I'll schedule that for the hour before her candlelight class, and we'll piggyback them and cross-promote them, and you could do 2 hours of self-care. Come in, do art for an hour, relax, go over to yoga. I had about 2 people who came on a real regular basis, but it just never worked. It never populated itself. It was too much of a commitment on a weeknight. And I was so convinced that it was such a great idea and that everybody needed to do this, because I did it myself. I would teach the class and then go to her yoga class, and I was like, but it's so great. Everybody should do this. It's so wonderful. Nobody else agreed with me. And I eventually just had to sort of check myself, and this is the zoom out part where I had to go, okay, Lindsay, you're a business owner, not a philanthropist, and this is not making money. This is not working. Obviously, you didn't hit the niche that needed to be filled this time, no matter how great you think your own idea is, it's time to let it go and walk away. And that was a really valuable lesson, and it's a really important one as a business owner, I think, to don't hold tight to stuff that isn't working for you, financially or personally, And so that was not something that is in my nature to let go of things if I'm really convinced they're a good idea. But it was a really good lesson, and so we quit doing it.
But
And
it wasn't hard
it's fine.
because you could just change it. It wasn't like it was. It was easy to fix. It was an easy fix.
Well, yeah, because nobody was coming. So if I just stopped doing it, nobody was upset. So it was fine. People came to her candlelight class. It wasn't that. It was just like you said. It was too much time.
Yeah,
But,
probably.
so yeah, not every genius idea that we've had has turned out to actually be genius,
We're
which
gonna
is
end like that.
also fine.
The end.
Yeah, right. You can't be a genius all the time. Does anybody have any questions? We've talked a lot.
I have one, but it's not related. You mentioned we have a lot of small businesses. Does anybody know
How many?
No,
I
that's
don't
an
know.
excellent question, though. I wish I did know. I bet Jennifer might know it. Main Street. Sandy,
That's a
you
good
don't know, do
question.
you?
I would like to know the answer. To
How
that.
many small businesses we have in Abingdon? Is that
don't
that's a
know
really
either.
great question. I have no idea.
In the town limits
Yeah.
or on Main Street?
A lot.
Yeah, all the businesses in town are
Not
considered
like big
small business. Well, I mean, I guess it's you'd have to look at the classification. Are you looking at retail? Are you looking at services? Are you looking at professional?
What is a small business?
Right.
Well, small
Well,
business
that's
is kind of
defined,
classified. It's
yeah.
defined, there's micro business, which is defined at what, 25?
That's what we are.
We're
employees?
micro.
What's smaller than
Up to
micro?
Smaller than micro.
We're a nano business.
As far as different classifications, Abingdon has a big base of
bet
different
it's a lot per
classifications of
capita.
businesses.
Oh, I bet it is a lot per
Yeah.
capita.
Business license taxes that come in.
Right, that will be close, and then there'll be a distinction between whether or not we're brick and mortar or just transient business.
Right.
I can say a lot of people didn't think I'd make it. I had a lot of people tell me that I wouldn't make it.
Because that's a tough niche.
Thank you.
Yeah, but a lot of people
Create, you
didn't
just
believe
fill
it.
a niche, create it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of naysayers.
Julie had, I think, just to give my 2 cents worth, Julie had probably a tougher time
I
because
think so.
everybody knew Lindsay from William Penny.
Right.
But Julie came in and she took over a building that, had been abandoned, that wasn't pretty, that wasn't in a, you know.
People didn't know where it was because it hadn't been anything in so
Right,
long.
wasn't a
Yeah.
convenient location, and so but you hit the ground running.
Yeah, we did.
And
It
without
was
parking
a field of
even.
dreams yoga
Yeah.
studio. I say that a lot.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
and the parking situation's hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've had some obstacles.
you've done well.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. This has been a really great class. I've thoroughly enjoyed the information that and it's very obvious as to why you've been successful.
Thank you.
So, with that, our next class will be June the 15th, Excel in an hour. We've tried QuickBooks on a regular basis, and what we've learned is that everybody's business is so different that it's a little more difficult to teach QuickBooks, but Excel's on your computer, and our next instructor will be able to teach you how to create your own spreadsheet for your own type of business. So, again, thank you for coming today. We appreciate it, and we'll see you June the 15th.
Thank you.